This episode is brought to you by Seventh Generation. In New York, climate pollution is not only dangerous, it's expensive. In fact, it's costing the state $27.5 billion annually. But what if, instead of neglecting communities, we invested in them? With better infrastructure, a more stable energy grid, a future-facing, well-trained labor force, and support for low to moderate income households. Tell Albany, invest $15 billion in New York's future. Now's the time. To find out more, visit seventhgeneration.com/climate.
Empire. The Last Dance in a New Era.
I think, while NIL has unlocked while these guys are in college now, coming to a place like Duke was always an incredible opportunity to build a brand, to understand how that all works.
That's David Bradley, creative director for Duke basketball, who is navigating a historic final season for a timeless coach and the new world of modern engagement. This is the Future Sport Podcast. I'm Bram Weinstein. Duke completed its final home game in the career of college basketball's all-time winningest coach, Mike Krzyzewski. They're now embarking on their final Coach K-led NCAA tournament. His perspective on how times have changed over his 42 years in Durham, that would be fascinating. In a world of NIL, transfer portals, new forms of engagement for the brand, players, etc., David Bradley is charged with growing and controlling all of it with Hoop's biggest collegiate brand. Our guest this week is David Bradley. He is the basketball creative director for Duke, which is dealing with a ton of different assets in a very different landscape with athletes and brands. And as we get set for March Madness, we wanted to catch up with David and see how the biggest brand in college basketball is navigating all of it. Hey, David, how are you?
Hey, good. Thanks for having me on.
You told me off air that you've been with Duke and the basketball program for 17 years now. I can only imagine the last couple of years have really kind of changed everything. Could you take me through with rule changes, with NIL, and all the other things that are happening with college basketball as you look to extend the brand of Duke basketball, how you kind of give us a broad view of what's been going on?
Yeah, absolutely. I've said to some other folks who sort of asked the same thing. We've had more change really since July than we've had in, my other, 15 or 16 years combined. So it's been a lot to process, a lot to take in. It's been, as far as in the world that I live in, it's been really in a lot of respects, a total change. But that said, I think there's some fundamental aspects to everything, that haven't fully changed, or that, we were already positioned well on. To help our athletes, our players navigate this new era. I mean, I think, for us, we've always been in tune with, the importance of an athlete's brand, of our program's brand. So, that's sort of been my career here. I've been positioned, since, like you mentioned, since like 2005, really to help support and lead Duke men's basketball brand. And that's been different. There's been so many different components to that, right? When I start out, like dating myself, but social media isn't a thing. And then, and I'm making I inherit sort of like a recruiting newsletter, which becomes a full color magazine, which becomes a website, which becomes, social media. And then ultimately building out sort of a creative team within our program. So I started as a one-man band, and now, we have a social media hub right next to the court here in Cameron Indoor. We have two other full-time videographers that support us, that work under me, with me, to make sure that Duke men's basketball is at the head of the curve with all this. And I think because of my position, and really the credit goes to Coach K and our coaches, they saw the value in it. They saw where this thing could be. So now when everything has changed, I think, we're in there's certainly some tweaks that we may make, but we're well positioned to help serve the increased challenges and needs of the athlete. I've seen, especially in recent years, even before NIL changes came into play, but certainly since, where what we do is of more importance to them. They were always interested in it, but now you have their complete attention. That starts on a recruiting visit, and we meet with them in July. We sit down with them. We try to educate them. So there's much more to it now than just creating cool content for the Duke MLB channels. There are components to involving our athletes, educate, serve them on the branding side, on the content side, and make sure you want them to leverage their name, image, likeness while they're here, but you also want to make sure they're building a foundation. So where they leave here, not just that their following and notoriety is growing, but their understanding, their awareness of the whole world, of this whole world is much improved. And, so we enjoy doing that as much as anything.
So what do you mean by that when you say you're helping them understand the awareness of the whole world? Can you explain what you mean by that when you're telling the athletes about this?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, these guys are all, we're fortunate. We get to meet with them when they come in on their official visits. So that's really the start of a relationship. And, the biggest reason for my success and our success on the social media side is the access to the athletes, the trust, and the time we get with them. We have the social media hub. We're right next to where they have their meals, where they practice. And so, they get to know us starting on the recruiting visit, and through this process, the relationship side, we can become, not just a friend to them, but sort of maybe even like a brand coach. And I think while they understand that it's important, their understanding of it is, these are high school kids with a lot of other things on their mind. They certainly understand the ins and outs of how Instagram works, how Snapchat works, but then translating that up to how they can use their skills to kind of leverage those skills to position themselves as best as possible in this new era. I think that's where we come in. So, like I mentioned, July 1st or so is usually when you get the whole squad here for the next season. That's sort of when our season starts. So we get 2 hours a week through all of summer session too, that they're here. And I basically build a course out for them where we're teaching them the ins and outs of social media platform strategy, how to network, how to all the intricacies of NIL, and those conversations are able to continue then, as they go forward into the season. And so if they ever need us for anything, they have a question that comes up, someone sliding in their DM, they're unsure, they can come to us, and we can help. And I think they want to have, it's important for them, more important for them than ever, to maybe want to take advantage of us, because there's so much opportunity there, right? Like the conversation, we're having a conversation around brand, but what's brand, right? It's simply opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
It's opportunity for them in the short term and then the long term. So it's understanding all the ins and outs of that. I could talk about that for days, but it's understanding. There's so many things that go into NIL now, whether tax implications or understanding, the power of a deal or what a deal means to them, right? Deals are great. You want them to make a little money while they're here, if that's what they want to do. But not every deal is a great deal. There's levels to it. So all those different things, and then on the side, right? If they want to be trying to leverage this and make some deals, well, they better be also, sharing content and making sure they're doing a good job. I just have something on the content side where it's not about a deal. It's just about sharing themselves, having some transparency, right? Because ultimately social media for them is an amazing storefront window for the world to see who they are, for someone to want to have to deal with them. And they're on TV playing pretty basketball, but their own social media channels are obviously super critical. So helping them understand all that, and how to use it well, is more important than ever.
You had mentioned earlier that you felt like Duke was prepared for all of these changes. In what ways were you all preparing for what eventually was the rule changes with NIL?
Yeah, for sure. I think while NIL has unlocked while these guys are in college now, coming to a place like Duke was always an incredible opportunity to build a brand to understand how that all works. And so I think our coaches were in tune to that. So that's where I said, like, we had my position, which is really unique in college basketball. Like, no one in college basketball has my position and then 2 videographers. So just the infrastructure, the resource, and then the social media hub, like, we all had that before NIL hit.
Yeah.
By having that, like, we're able to, like, understand how to build a brand, you know, able to have the resources to, you know, to help players out. And frankly, it was always important for them. It's always relevant for them to potentially go to a school like Duke and build their brand up, right? And whether they could make money on it in the year to 4 years that they were here, you know, that obviously wasn't allowed before, but it was still super important. It was absolutely an incredibly critical time for them, a foundational period in their life before NIL to build their brand. Because unless you're Jason Tatum or Zion or maybe, you know, Kyrie, like the coming to a place like Duke, that's your best, the most impactful period of time in your life, but even before NIL, really get to know you, for you to build your platform, for you to kind of grow. And so we were already understanding that and doing that, you know, years back. And so, you know, now that the time is here, you know, we have the largest following in college sports, and we have this infrastructure, the resources here, where we may need to make a tweak here or you know, think about a new position there, some tweak responsibilities over here. But, you know, 20,000 foot level, we got amazing buy-in from our coaches and this infrastructure to support, where we can react more nimbly to, you know, some of the needs now that are popping up with NIL.
And you guys are Duke, so I can only imagine that the last 8 months, 9 months, whatever it's been, the floodgates must have opened on you all. I mean, I assume you anticipated it, but still, I think the reality of it, what has that been like with brands and all sorts of opportunities, as you would put it, go directly to the athletes, go through you, go through the school? How have you all thought about navigating everything that's been going on?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, you know, for us it's important not to like rush into anything. I think you saw it was really cool actually. And you saw whether it was companies out there trying to support and make a splash. Everyone was happy that there are these opportunities now that didn't exist. But at the same time, the NCAA made it a little bit difficult, where we didn't know what the rules were even going to be until maybe a few days before July 1st, if that. So then it's like, okay, like, this is a huge seismic change. This is a bigger change than anything we've seen in 15 years for me personally. So what does this really mean? Like, how is this going to play out? And so I think we didn't necessarily want to like rush into trying to, you know, do this or that before we really understood the rules. We want to make sure we're following the rules, and, you know, and then also, you know, working hand in hand, talking to our players and the folks around them too, where we can kind of see how they're seeing this, because, you know, we can help them, but certainly, you know, one thing that I've always been aware of is that I can learn as much from a player or a student intern or whatever as they can from me. So it's having these convos, having our heads on a swivel to really even see what everyone's thinking about this. And it's like, okay, now we're starting to kind of see what this looks like, you know, and then this, and all that said, it's like, well, we already had 17 other roles and responsibilities. This is like a whole new world that's being laid on top of everything else. So it's figuring out what we have time for, what's most important to our players. And that's ongoing. I wouldn't say anyone has it all figured out, but it certainly led to, you know, many conversations in this space, conversations with folks at other schools, conversations with, you know, different entities out there for sure, people that are interested in working with our players. And then figuring out, you know, what role is appropriate and legal for someone like myself or whoever to have as far as navigating and dealing with these deals, because we're not allowed, or we're not trying to be the middleman negotiating. So it's understanding, you know, where we fit into all that, and you know, and then kind of going forward from there, and not necessarily rushing into anything, because you know, it's all very new. And, you know, I've seen our players, and every player, what's complicated, I think, in the college athletic space. I mean, even within our team, and this is Duke men's basketball. You can zoom out of Duke men's basketball and look at every Duke athlete. You can zoom out of Duke athletics and you look at the ACC. You zoom out of the ACC. Obviously, you can keep zooming out, and every student athlete, you know, it affects them differently. They all have different goals. They all have different potentials. And so it's figuring out also, you know, how you can serve all of them well, because you want all of them to leverage this however they can. And so, you know, a guy like Paulo, Moncaro is going to be maybe the top 3 pick in the NBA draft. He's certainly going to have more opportunities than Joey Baker, who is a role player for us, but still a guy that has great opportunity. You want both those guys to feel like we're serving them well, and they're having a great opportunity, great experience here. So it's kind of figuring all that out, and then and then kind of going from there.
Guys, if you're looking for that extra confidence when it's time to have a little bit of fun, let me tell you about Bluewchew.com. Bluewchew is a unique online service. It delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, but it comes in chewable form, and it's at a fraction of the cost. Bluechew's tablets will help you combat all forms of ED. Plus, it's an online prescription service. No visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, no waiting in line at the pharmacy, and it ships right to your door in a discreet package. The process is really simple. Sign up at Bluechew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you are approved, you'll receive your prescription within days, and the best part, all done online. Bluechew's licensed medical providers are going to work with you to find the right ingredient and the strength for your personal subscription. Plus, their tablets are made in the United States. They prepare, they ship direct, and it's so much cheaper than going through a pharmacy. And here's a special deal for our listeners. Try Bluechew free when you use our promo code FUTR, FUTR, at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's Bluechew.com, promo code FUTURE, FUTR, to receive your first month free. And we thank Bluechew for being a sponsor of this show. And there are still rules. I mean, you can't advertise anything, and I imagine that there's been an educational process there too, right? I mean, there are, as you put it too, there's rules on your end as well for what you can do here.
Right. There's challenges for us to figure out. There are rules that our players have to certainly abide by. A big one, of course, has been navigating licensing and the use of logos and marks.
Yeah.
It's been a few deals that we've seen where maybe like Trevor Keels, for example, got a recent deal with Therabody. Well, Therabody was also partnering with Duke Athletics, which made it easier. But then there's a lot of conversation around, around what Trevor's going to do, what the university is going to do, how Therabody is going to show up in Cameron Indoor, as far as advertising and all that. So, there are deals like that, and then that's a pretty big deal. But then there can be really small deals where the guy wants to make $100 here, $200 there, where it's not a big company like a Therabody, and then to making sure that those deals are done right and the right people are aware and all that. So like I said, I think even just understanding what goes into one of these deals. You got to make sure if you're a student athlete that you can fulfill it, that it's right for you. Not every deal is a great deal. If you're a guy like Paulo and you want to maybe work with a big dog like a Nike someday, and some guy from your hometown, not saying this happened, but some guy from his hometown might slide at the end, like, yo, rep my apparel.
Yeah.
I'll pay you this, and this. It may or may not be an amazing deal for P. Furthermore, just like me and my staff have all these other responsibilities, this is something new that's just added on to our plate. It's the same for our players, right? Like at the end of the day, they also have to make the main thing, take care of business on the court. They want to be students. They got academic work that they have to handle. They want to be social. They're college kids.
Yeah. So
there's only so many hours in the day. And if you're only focused on this and you're not eating right and sleeping right and practicing and getting to the gym extra, then it's sort of a non-starter, the NIL side. So there's so much that's another part of it, is this, kind of educational process around time management and understanding all that, because I think that's as important as anything.
Yeah. One of the partnerships that we wanted to focus on just for a moment here is with the group AIR, which is a creative workspace that you guys are working with to help deal with all of these things and build their brand. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, content is king, and all these athletes are sort of their own brand. I mean, when I sit down with them, I tell conversation starters, basically they're sort of the CEO of their own brand, and then go through what a brand is and how it impacts them and all that. And in their world, and in most of our world, you can't be a successful brand without without having a great presence on social media and not being organized with content. And so for us, like I said, we've evolved from me as sort of this one-man band on the content side where we have multiple folks involved in this process. And so if your digital assets aren't super organized, it's going to make it really hard, because how it is where everything in this space, it's changing 24/7. Things happen that you don't expect. And, if you're not ready to move and react, if you don't have your digital assets organized, tagged, sortable, then it's going to be difficult to keep up. So Air's been a great solution for us. It's sort of like a Dropbox on steroids with some amazing, some amazing abilities to help us organize everything, communicate within our team, and sort of stay on top, one step ahead instead of 3 steps behind.
I mean, obviously, the way that the players play is going to ultimately matter for their career trajectory in the sport. But the more I'm having this conversation with you, the more it feels like there are two things happening at the same time. And maybe that's been going on for a while, but it feels different right now, that building the brand and the amount of points and rebounds you get are almost working side by side with one another. And I don't know that they're at the same level of importance, but it's feeling like it's heading that way. Does it feel that way to you?
Absolutely. I think that's a good point. Certainly, like Paulo, a guy like Paulo, if he drops, I'm not saying dropping in a negative way, but if he's the 3rd pick versus the 10th pick versus the 20th pick, of course, every pick is money.
A lot of money. That. Yes. A lot of money. Yes.
More money than he's going to get in an NIL deal.
That's right.
At Duke. He's going to make more money than probably anyone in college basketball and among probably the top in all of college sports. He's doing well and even turning down stuff. But, on the flip side, it's become, with NIL in particular, but always, right, it's a competitive space. How do you stand out? Going to a place like Duke and being on TV helps, but, you gotta think bigger than that and do more. And so, making sure that these guys are showing personality, kind of sharing themselves with the world. If they're not doing that, they're going to fall behind. I've seen, to your point, it's been awesome for us, to see the progression, right? Like, 4 or 5 years ago, I'd say maybe I thought it would have been wise for me to meet with these recruits when they come in, but we might be at the end of the list of like, these kids only have so many hours they can come in, and they got to meet with the performance team, and they got to have their academic meetings, all that, of course. So we would meet with them some, and now it's become, as important of a meeting and an addition to the official visit itineraries as anything, where they sit down with me for 30 to 45 minutes in our team, and to see that their interest level, there was always an interest level. Once we started this, like I said, 4 or 5 years ago, there's always an interest. But now it's like an edge of your seat, locked in interest where they're, in tune to me as much as they would be when, they get to meet like a Coach K or whatever, like this stuff, like to see it resonate, to see it come full circle. I'm like, it makes me feel good. It makes our team feel amazing. So it sort of, in some ways, maybe validates, some of the work we've done. And I think, and also like I mentioned earlier, being in a position like we are now, it's the result of like multiple years where it's led to this. Where again, there's always an interest, it's always important, but everyone else is seeing it now. I think maybe we saw it and we hoped that others would see it, and it was important. And now it's like, okay, we kind of have everyone's attention. We better take advantage of this moment in time and then keep growing and improving. 2
topics, and I'll let you go. And so you're doing all this work with the team and the school and the athletes. Are some of the other people from the apparel companies, if I remember right, I think you guys are a Nike school, are they coming in and trying to support all of this with brand awareness and help with brand? Or are you guys at that point, or are you not there yet with groups like that?
I wouldn't say it's quite there. I mean, I'm sure some of the big apparel companies are aware of the change, and you've seen maybe others trying to get really involved. But at the same time, I mean, Nike, we're Nike school, so Nike has served us extremely well. They got to cover not just all of our sports here, but all the other schools across the country that they have deals with. So I would say, I don't know exactly what their game plan is, but I would say, maybe they're operating more on an athlete by athlete basis, and not necessarily like, oh, let's make sure that, Duke's great, Michigan State's covered, and we're going to send in staff here and there. I think, they probably trust the staff here and there. And then if there's an athlete or two along the way at any sport, at any school that they might be interested in building a relationship with, they might try to pursue that on their own. And then of course you got to make sure that all those convos fit within whatever deals the school may have. We're a Nike school, so you get into you could get into a challenge of what happens when apparel company X offers a deal to an athlete who plays for a school that uses apparel company Y on court. And I think it's sort of like the NBA, right? Like if the school is wearing Nike on court, everyone's going to wear Nike on court on their feet. But if a kid wants to have an apparel deal and rock any apparel company off court, lifestyle wise or whatever, he's of course welcome to do that. So certainly apparel has been a big player. Merch has been one of the big splashy moves that you've seen a lot of athletes make for sure. But I haven't seen any issues. It's gone pretty well.
All right, last thing for you. We're almost at March as we're taping this, and this is the last go with Mike Krzyzewski. Could you just kind of give me a general feeling in Duke about this kind of last dance with this legendary coach? Yeah,
it's been certainly been an emotional year. I think it's been awesome overall. Coach, for him to decide how he did. None of us knew when the decision was going to be made. And I was somewhat surprised. I thought he might have a few more years in him, but once the decision was made, the process that we've had here has been great. I think, we all wondered how this was going to look, and for him to, appoint John Shire, our recruiting's been great. And he's been able, for these past however many months since it was announced, he's been able to, I think, really enjoy everything. We've got a great team. I mean, he's obviously, top 10 team, great talent, but it's a good group of guys to be around. So I think for him to have one more season, just where he can focus on coaching, relationship build, win some games here and there. He's not having to recruit, and our recruiting's gone well. It's been good for him. Big win at our rival, UNC. I think, but in the last few weeks, it's kind of hit a little bit closer. You start to really feel it. It felt more normal. We certainly tried to have some different content plays along the way, and certainly trying to tell some of those stories and review his legacy a bit. And we're going to do that more and more as we go. But also just trying to enjoy, just the days with him, one last season. So it's been great. It's been awesome to although it's been sad, it's been great to see him kind of be able to go out how he should go out. And obviously, hopefully, this chapter, there's a few more chapters here to go. I hope they're good ones. But it's been awesome for him. And then he, for him to be still around. He'll still have his office here in the 6th floor of this building that I'm in now. So everything's been amazing. So we just got to hope these last few weeks are filled with a few more wins here for him. David Bradley is the creative director for Duke's basketball program. Thank you so much for joining us. Of course. Yeah, anytime. Thanks for having me. On the next Future Sport podcast, back into the NFT explosion.
If you're participating and you're owning these NFTs, you have a chance to win great seats at the finals. You have a chance to get a piece of memorabilia. You have a chance to get some hyper-specific, very, very rare NFTs in the future, as well as merchandise, coupons, special experiences. That's Todd Cooper, CEO and co-founder of Nuarka Labs, as we navigate the growing marketplaces around digital collectibles and experiences. That will do it for this episode. As always, the future is now. This is the Future Sport Podcast. I'm Bram Weinstein.